prospect looked at my software last year and said something that would have been considered ridiculous 3 years ago. He said, "This is nice, but couldn't I just build it myself?" Now, he wasn't an engineer. In fact, he was an accountant with a ChatGPT subscription and a weekend. Now, here's the thing. He was half right, and that half is the most important strategic fact in software right now. Anyone can build now. That floor collapsed. And what most people miss is that the floor collapsing didn't remove the opportunity. It moved it, and it moved it somewhere very specific. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly where it moved using a discovery I made building a B2B SaaS fintech software. And I'm going to give you the design pattern that puts your product on the right side of it. So let's get into it. Now, let me be honest with you about what actually changed, because unfortunately, a lot of people in the software world are still in denial about it. Your customer can now describe a workflow in plain English and get something that runs. They can wire up N8N and automate half their week. They can build a Claude skill that does the thing they used to pay someone for. Whether or not you think that counts as software engineering is really irrelevant here, since they don't really care what we call it. It works well enough for them to feel capable, and feeling capable is what changes buying behavior. Now here's the other half, and I want to be careful here since this is where founders can get lazy and a little bit smug. The gap didn't close, it just moved. Let's review the results of a study done by Veracode because it helps illustrate the point that I want to make here. In the study, they tested more than 100 language models across 80 coding tasks where the model could pick a secure or an insecure way to do the job. The models picked the insecure option 45% of the time. Cross-site scripting alone had an 86% failure rate. Now here's the part that actually matters for your strategy. They ran it again in the spring of 2026 on the newest flagship models. Syntax pass rates climbed from about 50% up to over 95% over 3 years. So models got dramatically better at writing code that runs. Security pass rates stayed flat, hovering between 45 and 55% the entire time. Model size barely moved that number. That's not a bug waiting for the next release, that's structural. The model's optimized for code that works, not code that survives contact with real users, real money, and real attackers. So what this means in reality is that both things are true. Your customer can build something that works, and the distance between works on my laptop and I trust this with my client's money is as wide as it's ever been. The trouble is your customer doesn't know that yet, which is now your problem to solve. The way competition used to work is your product would need to compete against two things: alternative products and your customer basically doing nothing. However, now you have to compete against a third thing that's harder to beat than either of them. You compete against what your customer believes they could build themselves this weekend. Now that objection shows up before pricing, before features, before anything. If you can't answer it in one sentence, the rest of your pitch will not get heard. The wrong way to answer it is to argue. Telling a customer their prototype is garbage is a great way to lose a customer who's now emotionally invested in their prototype. The right way to answer it is to be positioned somewhere the argument never comes up. That means knowing precisely what AI can already do for your customer, and building where structurally it realistically can't reach. Which brings me to how I found that line in my own market, through a lot of T&E, or trial and error. One of the tools I'm building right now is fintech software for financial services firms. Early on, I did what everybody does. I looked for how I could leverage AI to pretty much blow their minds. But then I ran to a wall that reshaped my entire product strategy. Financial services firms cannot tolerate unpredictable results. If you run the same numbers through the same process twice and you get two different answers, you don't have a helpful tool. In fact, you actually have a liability. Their work gets reviewed, it gets defended. Somebody typically signs their name to it. Now here's the technical reality a lot of founders aren't fully acknowledging about AI. Large language models are non-deterministic by design, and you mostly don't have the ability to change that all that much without dramatic adjustments. It's built into the foundation of an LLM. Now there's a study from Thinking Machines Lab that measured this precisely. They ran the same prompt, "Tell me about Richard Feynman," 1,000 times on a large open model, and they got 80 different responses. And here's my favorite detail. All 1,000 responses were identical for the first 102 tokens. Every single one of them wrote that the subject was born on May 11, 1918. Then 992 of them said Queens, New York, and 8 of them said New York City. Now, that cause isn't randomness in the model, it's that inference servers batch requests together, and the batch size changes based on how many other people happen to be using the system at that moment. So different batch size, different order of floating point math, different result. So your answer depends on the server's traffic. Now, you can adjust that behavior with specialized work, but it isn't fixed by default in the tools your customer is using, and that's what really matters here. Now, put that in front of a professional whose regulator requires a documented, reviewable trail. Audit standards require that a reviewer can understand what a tool did and how its output was evaluated. If it is giving me a different answer today than it did yesterday and I'm not sure why, that would fail that test instantly. That single discovery told me more about my roadmap than 100 feature requests ever could. It told me exactly which parts of the workflow AI can own and which parts of it must never own, and where my product earns the right to exist. That's not just an insight, that's a template. Every market has a gap. The question is, which one is yours? Here are the 5 places these gaps consistently live. The first is reproducibility. Anywhere the same input has to produce the same output every time, forever. Finance, accounting, payroll, legal compliance, calculations, pricing, just about anything these days in the business world. Second, accountability. Anywhere a human has to sign their name and carry the consequence. AI can draft the thing, but largely cannot own the outcome, and somebody pretty much has to at every company. Third, the audit trail. Not just what the answer was, but what the inputs were, which version of the logic ran, who approved it, and when. That's a systems problem, not a model problem. Fourth, the system of record. AI is genuinely great at producing an answer and mediocre at being the place the answer lives, gets updated, gets permission, and gets pulled from years later. Fifth, cost of being wrong. This is the one that sorts every market. Ask what happens when the output is wrong. Wrong tweet, who cares? Wrong tax filing, wrong dosage, wrong wire transfer, wrong lien deadline, and suddenly nobody is vibe coding their own solution. Run your market through those 5 right now. Whichever one lands hardest is where your moat goes. If none of them land hard, it's worth knowing too, since it might mean that your market probably will get eaten and you should either move up into a market where the stakes are higher or plan for a different type of business entirely. So here's the actual pattern, and this is the part I actually want you to implement. Stop thinking about adding AI to your product and start thinking about it instead as 3 different layers of your product. The edges are where AI belongs. Places like intake, extraction, classification, drafting, summarizing, explaining, answering questions in plain English. Messy input that's tolerant of variance is probably an area where a human's going to look at it anyway, and AI is genuinely excellent here, and you should use it aggressively. The spine is where AI never goes. Your calculations, your rules, your state transitions, your money movement, plain, boring, deterministic code, version, tested, same input, same output, forever. The log is what makes the whole thing defensible. Every input, which version of the rules ran, what the AI suggested, what a human approved, timestamped, and immutable. The rule that ties it together, and this is the sentence I put on a sticky note: AI proposes, the spine decides, and the log proves it. Now look at what that gets you. Your customer gets all the speed of AI on the miserable parts of their job, the data entry, the reading, the drafting. They get none of the risk on the parts where being wrong is expensive. When the reviewer asks how a number was produced, there's an answer for it. Now try building that in a weekend. That's not a prompt, that's a system, and systems are what people actually pay for. Now, before you go ripping AI out of your product entirely, I want to talk about that as a problem that founders also make as well too. Some people hear this and they think that, why don't I just skip AI in my product experience altogether? And I'm here to tell you that that is just as bad of a mistake to make. The spine is where you beat AI. It's yours, it's stable, it's the thing that can't be prompted into existence. The edges are where you join it in 2 different ways. And the first is putting AI inside your product on those messy input tasks, which makes your software faster and less annoying to use. The second, and this is the one most founders are currently sleeping on, your customers are building their own AI workflows right now, and those workflows need access to your data. And if your product is easy to reach from the tools that they're already using, you stop being one more app they log into and you start being infrastructure in their stack. But if instead you're hard to reach, their AI will route around you. So the goal isn't to be AI proof. The goal is to be the reliable piece that everybody's AI plugs into. That's a much better and stickier business than either extreme. Now I want to address an obvious question that you may be asking yourself. Won't the next AI model just close all of this? Well, let's look back at the 2 studies. Security pass rates stayed flat for 3 years while capability climbed. The non-deterministic problem needs specialized engineering on the inference stack, not a bigger model. These aren't gaps that shrink automatically as the model improves. More importantly, most of what I described isn't a model problem at all. An audit trail is a systems design decision. Accountability is a legal and an organizational structure. Being the system of record is earned over years of your customers' data living in your product. Notice what that means. The pattern I gave you actually gets stronger as AI gets better, since the more capable AI becomes at the edges, the more valuable a trustworthy spine becomes. Somebody has to be the part of the stack you can bet the business on. and that's the position that you want. Now, if you're wondering how to do this with your product, here's the playbook to follow. Step 1. Write down what your customer can already do with AI tools they have today. Be honest and be specific. Better yet, go build a weekend version yourself and see how far you can get. Step 2. Run your market through the 5 gaps: reproducibility, accountability, audit trail, system of record, and cost of being wrong. Find the one that lands the hardest. Step 3. Draw your 3 layers. Name exactly what lives at the edges, what lives in the spine, and what goes in the log. Anything in the spine that currently depends on a model needs to come out. Step 4. Make your product easy for their AI to reach. Clean API, clear docs, and an MCP server if it fits. Be infrastructure, not just a destination. 5. Put the answer in your marketing. 1 sentence on your homepage for why building it themselves likely won't work. Make them see the gap before they waste a weekend finding it themselves. If step 1 or step 2 are where you're stuck, that's exactly what my free SaaS Idea Validator tool does for you. It walks your idea through whether it actually holds up, including against what your customer could put together themselves. And if you want to work through your own positioning against AI with me directly, I work with a small number of founders for private one-on-one coaching. You can find links to both in the description below and also at bootstrappersparadise.com. Keep in mind that the lower barrier to entry in our space didn't take the opportunity away. It moved the opportunity to parts of the problem that were never just about writing code in the first place. You need to go and find yours. In my next video, I'll be diving further into building a successful SaaS business in the AI era. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and I'll see you in the next one.